The flickering flames cast dancing shadows on the faces gathered around the campfire, momentarily erasing the lines of hardship and worry etched into their features. This was their nightly ritual, a stolen moment of levity in a life dictated by hard labor and ceaseless worry. "Tell us another story, Pa," pleaded a young girl with braids as bright as the stars above. Her name was Lily, and her father, Jacob, with calloused hands and a weather-beaten face, was the undisputed storyteller of their camp. All right, he chuckled, his eyes twinkling with amusement. "But this one's a scary one. So huddle close, you little ones." They snuggled closer to him, their imaginations already conjuring images of the tales he spun. "Once upon a time, many years ago," Jacob began, his voice deepening with dramatic flair, "there was a young man named Ethan. He lived in a little house by a prairie, and he was known for his fine carpentry. People came from miles around to seek his skill, but Ethan preferred the company of his hammer and chisel to that of people." The children gasped as if Ethan's preference was a sin, and indeed, in their sheltered world, community was everything. To be detached, unfeeling, well, that was akin to a sin. "One day," Jacob continued, lowering his voice conspiratorially, "Ethan was startled by a knock at his door. When he opened it, he saw a woman standing there with a little girl holding onto her skirt. The woman was tired, her face creased with worry, and the girl's eyes were big with exhaustion. "Mister," the woman began, her voice hoarse with fatigue, "we're looking for somewhere to rest for the night. My daughter and I are traveling to a new town, and we're too exhausted to keep going. Would you please let us stay in your barn?" The children leaned in, their eyes wide with empathy. They understood tiredness, the kind that seeped into your bones and made even standing a monumental task. Well, that's when Ethan stopped dead in his tracks, for he had never welcomed strangers into his house, and the thought of sharing his humble abode with these weary travelers made him uncomfortable. He hesitated, unsure of what to say, and the woman, sensing his reluctance, added, "We won't trouble you, sir. We'll stay in the barn and leave in the morning. We just need a place to rest our heads." The children were silent, their young minds grappling with the gravity of the situation. For them, refusing help was unthinkable. But they also knew that Ethan had always preferred being alone. It was his way, and questioning it seemed almost sacrilegious. Ethan couldn't bring himself to turn them away, but he didn't want them staying in his house either. So he did something very un-Ethan-like. He agreed to let them stay in his barn. But that wasn't the end of the story. Oh no. Every night, around the campfire, they would tell stories about Ethan and how he changed when he started talking to a woman and her kid. They would narrate how he had helped the girl clean the stable, how he had given her a horse to ride on, and how they would go for walks together. They also told tales about his change in attitude towards his carpentry, how he had started making toys for kids in the neighborhood and furniture for the families around him. The children would gasp at each tale, as if these changes were miraculous and wondrous. In fact, these evenings became the highlight of the week, a time for the children to share their hopes, dreams, and fears with a father who had an uncanny knack for turning their problems into adventure, their anxieties into curiosity, their uncertainties into confidence. Each night, when the embers glowed brightly and the shadows took on fantastical shapes, they would urge their father to continue the story. What happened next, Pa? Did Ethan get to be friends with everyone? Did they live happily ever after? What happened to the grumpy Ethan? Their innocent questions echoed in the night, driving home a lesson that transcended make-believe. It was a lesson about compassion, understanding, and the power of human connection. And as Jacob gazed at his children, their faces illuminated by the firelight, he realized that these stories weren't just tales. They were building blocks for their souls. Each story was a foundation laid down for empathy, understanding, and kindness. He saw that the lessons woven into Ethan's journey were taking root in their hearts, growing into the values that would shape their lives. So Jacob kept telling the story, not because he enjoyed reliving Ethan's discomfort or reveling in his struggle with change, but because he saw the impact it was having on his children. With each retelling, he saw their eyes light up with understanding, their young minds grappling with the complexities of emotions and relationships. And in that, he found purpose. His weathered hands tightened around the branch that served as his storytelling stick. He loved these moments, not just because they brought his children joy, but because they were shaping them into compassionate, empathetic human beings. As the night deepened, the wind whispering secrets through the tall grass, Jacob continued to spin his tales, and in the captivated silence of his children, he found the satisfaction that only a father who knew he was planting seeds of wisdom in fertile ground could know. The flames crackled, sending sparks spiraling into the star-studded expanse. With each passing moment, Jacob wove his story deeper into the fabric of their lives, ensuring that the lessons of kindness and understanding it held dear would stay with them long after the fire had died down. When the final embers faded and it was time for bed, Lily snuggled close to Jacob. "Pa," she whispered, her voice thick with sleep, "do you think Ethan was happy at the end?" Jacob stroked her hair, his heart full. "I do, sweetheart," he replied. "I truly believe he was." The next morning, the camp buzzed with activity. Children were helping set up tables, laying out supplies, and tending to the cooking fires. They scurried about, their laughter echoing through the clearing, eager to contribute in their own small ways. "Morning, Pa," said Thomas, Jacob's eldest son, approaching his father with a broad smile. "Can I help you with anything?" Jacob, who was sorting through a pile of cured meats, looked up and returned a warm smile. "Thanks, son. Just keep doing what you're doing. We'll need everything we can get ready today." "Sure thing, Pa." Thomas rejoined the other children, eager to be part of the day's preparations. Jacob watched him go, a sense of pride swelling in his chest. Throughout the day, Jacob noticed his children interacting with the other campers in new ways. They were asking questions, offering help, and sharing their resources. Most importantly, he saw them listening. They were attentive not just to the tasks at hand, but to the needs and feelings of those around them. By midday, the clearing had transformed into a vibrant marketplace. Barterers haggled good-naturedly over prices, while others exchanged tools, fabrics, and food. The atmosphere was lively, filled with camaraderie and the promise of a bountiful harvest season. Later that afternoon, as the children helped gather firewood, Jacob took a moment to sit on an old log, surveying the scene. He saw his children returning from the trading with fresh fruits, colorful yarns, and even some handcrafted toys. Their laughter mingled with the murmur of adult conversations, creating a melody of contentment. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the clearing, the campers gathered once again around their makeshift market stalls. Tables overflowed with food thanks to the contributions of each family. There was fresh bread, smoked meats, ripe fruits, and even some freshly churned butter. That evening, as Jacob sat by the fire with his family, sharing stories of the day's events, Lily turned to him with a serious expression. "Pa, do you think we'll have enough to share with everyone?" Jacob, taken aback by the question, paused for a moment. "Why, yes, sweetheart, we have plenty." "Oh, good," she replied, a wave of relief washing over her young face. "Because I want everyone to be happy, just like Ethan made everyone in his story." Jacob's heart swelled. He realized that his daughter wasn't just parroting a tale. She was internalizing its lessons. As the night deepened, the campfire crackled, sending sparks dancing into the velvet sky. With each story Jacob told, he saw his children engaging with the narrative, their young minds grasping the essence of compassion, understanding, and community. In the end, the story of Ethan, the grumpy carpenter, wasn't just a bedtime tale. It was a blueprint for their lives, a reminder to embrace change, extend kindness, and never lose the magic of human connection.